What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today we're going to be talking about effectively a built-in perk with many of the guns in the game, and there's still a lot of people that are unaware of this. Now this perk is related to the guns using subsonic ammo, and while it is stated in the description, and I do cover this in my gun guides, there are still plenty of people that have no idea that this exists, or exactly how it works at least. So today we're going to be breaking down the 6 guns that use subsonic ammo in Modern Warfare 2 to see exactly what these perks are. And with this, like I said, you can just see by looking at the description of the guns, and there are 6 total that use subsonic ammo. We have the Chimera, the MX-9, the MWII, the BAS-P, although this one is a notable exception, the Fennec, and the P890 pistol. As of right now, these are the only guns in the game that use subsonic ammo and therefore gain these subsonic perks. And let's start this off by covering the perks before we get into more of the detailed testing that I've done. When you read the description, it says that subsonic ammo features no visible tracers and it hides kill skulls from the enemy team. So first up, let's have a look at the tracers, and in this case, this is a gun with tracers. You can definitely see the bullets flying through the air, although I did want to point out that these tracers are purely animations. These aren't the actual projectiles that deal damage flying through the air as far as the game is coded, so sometimes there's some weird interactions with tracers, and I just thought this was an appropriate time to bring that up. So sometimes you see a tracer go like right through your body, but you don't receive any damage. That's just due to the fact that these tracers are animations. They're meant to give you a bit of an indication of maybe where an enemy is coming from or where the bullets are coming from. That's it. They can't really be trusted as a source of damage. In either case, if you are using a gun with subsonic ammo, it's meant to eliminate that tracer effect, and therefore it may make it a little bit more difficult for an enemy to pinpoint the direction that the bullets are coming from. As for the second perk with subsonic ammo, this is actually part of the tracker perk that's built into the guns themselves. This is the one that hides the skulls for enemy players. So when you kill an enemy player's teammate, without a subsonic gun and without using the tracker perk, they will see these skulls appear, which will give them an indication that, hey, somebody just killed my teammate over there, maybe I should be aware of that location on the map. With these guns that use subsonic ammo, those skulls will not be appearing and you don't need to use tracker. Although it is worth noting, you can use any gun in the game with the tracker perk and they won't be seeing those skulls anyway. So you're essentially just getting a free portion of the tracker perk with these guns. Now, that's the absolute basics of these guns that use subsonic ammo. Now let's get a little bit more depth going on here. The first thing I wanted to point out is, like I mentioned earlier, there is an exception out of these 6, and this is the BAS-P. For some reason, even though this gun states that it's subsonic and therefore should have these subsonic benefits, it turns out, at least in the game's current state, this isn't true at all. It actually has quite a high bullet velocity, and you don't get any of these subsonic effects. So you do have visible tracers, and those skulls will appear when you kill enemy players. So don't trust the description when it comes to that. However, all of the other 5 guns that state that they use subsonic ammo, those descriptions are correct, and they will give you the subsonic benefits. Additionally, something I found out with my testing with these subsonic benefits is this isn't directly tied to the bullet velocity of the gun that you're using, which you would think would be the case logically, but instead, this benefit is tied to the gun itself. So if you have a gun that states that it's subsonic, but then you put a bunch of attachments on to improve your bullet velocity and bring that over the 344 meters per second threshold that takes a gun supersonic, you will still maintain all of the subsonic benefits with that gun. On the flip side of that, if you take a gun that doesn't have this stated subsonic benefit in the menu because its base bullet velocity is a little bit over that supersonic threshold, if you put a bunch of attachments on to reduce your bullet velocity below that threshold, so it now is technically subsonic, you don't gain those subsonic benefits. And that was one of the more interesting things I found with this testing. Just know this effect is tied to the gun, not the actual velocity of the bullet that you're firing. And with that, I did want to take this testing a little bit further just to see if there were some additional hidden benefits, because stuff like that happens all the time in Call of Duty. The first thing I wanted to see is if there was any mini-map benefit to using subsonic, and also what happens if you use one of these subsonic guns with a suppressor, for instance. Does that now make it so it no longer disables the ghost perk when you fire your gun? Or does it give you any other benefits over just using a suppressor? And it turns out, unfortunately, there's no impact here whatsoever. These will behave exactly the same as guns with supersonic velocities when it comes to all of your mini-map and compass interactions. Additionally, I wanted to see if there were any audio benefits to using subsonic versus supersonic, because in real life with supersonic ammo, you will hear quite a distinctive crack when you fire the gun. This is the bullet literally breaking the sound barrier, creating a sonic boom, whereas when you use subsonic ammo, you don't get that same sort of a crack. And it turns out with this one in-game, there is no noticeable difference here between subsonic and supersonic. Of course, every gun has its own sound profile, so they all sound different, but there isn't like an immediately obvious distinction between a gun that's supersonic versus a gun that's subsonic. And I did test this at close range as well as really long ranges. Again, there's just no clear difference here between a gun that's subsonic and a gun that's supersonic. And with that, that wraps it up for the testing that I've done with these subsonic guns in the game. And it turns out the descriptions are quite accurate, with that one exception being the BAS-P, obviously. The only benefits you gain from using these guns that use subsonic ammo are no skulls for enemy players when you kill their teammates, and no tracer animation when you fire the gun as well. And I can't find any additional hidden benefits with subsonic ammo. Additionally, it is important to note that the velocity itself doesn't matter. This is a characteristic that's tied to the gun, not the bullet velocity. And with that, that's gonna wrap it up for today's video, and I'd love to hear what you guys think about this little additional benefit to using subsonic ammo in Modern Warfare 2. Do you like the fact that these guns gain this additional benefit? And also, what do you think of the fact that this is tied to the gun itself and not the actual velocity of the projectile coming out of the gun? Personally, I think it would be a nice touch if this was tied to the bullet velocity itself, and maybe once you reach that threshold, it will come up with like an indicator letting you know whether you're subsonic or supersonic. But admittedly, that's also fairly nitpicky, and it's really not that big of a deal to me. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.